Hello everyone, I'm Karthik, and in this video we are going to go through this project where I've done some lipstick product visualization. So let's start. First I'll just turn everything off and show you the basics. The first thing that I did was I got my geometry in Houdini. This is an alembic. I got this in with the help of a alembic node, and this is the route to my geometry. So I unpacked this with the help of an unpack node, and I transferred the path attribute. I then used a convert node to convert everything in polygon. I just wanted to make sure that everything in this geometry that is coming in is a polygon, so that is why I used a convert node. After that, I used an attribute rename node, and I renamed the path attribute to name attribute because in Houdini the name attribute is used in a lot of nodes, so that's why. After that, I've used a transform node. As you can see, the incoming geometry was too big, so I've used a transform node, and I have changed the uniform scale to 0.01, and I have decreased the size here. Another transform node I have used, and I've used it to bring this geometry back to the center of the world, to 0, 0, 0, to here, and I've used the centroid formula in all the axes for this purpose. After that, I have used a group node, and I call this group called group 4. This is a primitive type. I turned off everything and I have just turned on keep by normals because this is the method through which I'll be selecting my primitives, and I am selecting all the primitives which are facing in the y direction with the spread angle. So if I turn this off, or if I increase this, you can see that I'm selecting everything that is facing the y direction in the 85 and with a spread angle of 85 degrees. So if I bring it to around 50, I'll find this. So this is what I wanted, because what I'm going to do is I'll delete this portion of this lipstick area. Let me just turn on the smooth wire shaded so you can see the primitives here. What I want is I want to delete this, and I'll recreate this in a proper manner. Okay, so that's why I've created this group and I have selected this. The main thing that I wanted was I wanted to select this, but I'm getting this also, and I'll need to delete this. So what I've done is I created another group. I called it group 4. This is again a primitive group type, and in the initial merge, instead of union with existing within which is the default mode, I have changed it to subtract from existing. The existing primitive in this group 4 are all of this. Okay, and what we are doing is we are subtracting from the existing, and what we are subtracting everything that is in this bounding box. So keep in bounding box region need to be turned on, and we are using a box as a bounding box here. You can also use a sphere, but box just will work fine, and you can select everything that needs to be in this box. So I have selected everything except these parts to be in this box, so that we will delete them. Okay, I hope this is clear. In the next step, I've used a blast node, and I've deleted everything that was in the group 4. Now what I've done is I have selected this portion, this lipstick portion specifically, and I'm remeshing it. With the help of a remesh node, and in the remesh node I have set the target size to 0.005, which is pretty low. So that's why we are getting a good amount of geometry here, good amount of triangles. In the next step, I have used a transform node, and what I've done with that is, as you can see, this portion, this holder portion is pretty small. I want to make it taller, so that's why I've used a transform node and apply this transform, this specific transform, only to these points here. So I've selected all these points which are here at the bottom and applied the transform to those points. You can also, this I can understand a lot of people will get upset that this is not procedural way. You can do that. You can select, you can create a group, and with the help of a bounding box you can select all those specific points, but this is far more simpler for me, and it was fast because it was, I was sure that I was not going to change it, and this part is not going to be reoccurring, so that I need to change it again and again. But you can do the procedural way and, you know, select all these points with the help of a group and then apply this transformation to that specific group. But this is fine for this project, so I've done that. In the next step, I have used a polyfill node, and with the help of polyfill node I have filled this open area and this open area. Okay, so in the polyfill node I have used the fill mode as quadrilateral grid, and the deform patch I have played with the values here. I did not want it to be bulging out like this, so I kept the value to -0.00032. So yeah, this is our lipstick. After this is our main geometry. The geometry is completed. We are not going to work on this a lot. We are not going to work on this anymore, so this is the final thing, and that's why I've used null node. I have called it out. Now what I want is a couple of things. I want to create, I have created one lipstick here, but I want to create another lipstick here, another lipstick body, and I wanted to create two lipstick boxes. So that's what I have done here. Okay, and I have positioned them like this. So let's get in and see what I've done. The first thing that I've done is I've used an object merge node, and I've called that lipstick body, lipstick geo that we prepared. The second thing that I've done is in the next node I've created the next node is a copy and transform node. So what the copy and transform node does is it creates a copy of the geometry, and I have two versions here. One is the original one, and we are creating a copy, the second one, and I have positioned the second one like this in this specific position because I wanted it to be a little far, you know. So that is that. You can play with the positioning here, keep them wherever you want. So this is copy and transform node. After that I have used a color node here. I have selected this specific part of the lipstick here in this color node, and I've applied a red color to it. I have created another color node, and I've done the same to the other lipstick area here, and I have applied a brighter version of the red here with the help of two color nodes. We have provided colors to our lipsticks. If I turn the textures off, you can see one is brighter and the other one is a little darker. After that I have created two material node. After that I have created a material node to apply materials to all our objects here. The first one is the lipstick material that I applied to both of these lipstick objects, and the second one is the holder which I applied to both of these holder objects. And if you are wondering how can I select all these objects, you can come to the select area here, name attribute, select this, and that is that. Okay. After that, I've used a normal node because I wanted to fix the normals here which are not acting properly. You can see the black here, and when I've applied the normals, the point normals, it gets fixed. So I just fix the normals, nothing too big. After that, our two of the lipsticks are complete. Two lipstick geometries are completed. So I just used a null node and called it out lipstick. After that, what I've done is I wanted to create two packaging boxes for these lipsticks. So what I've done is I have blasted one of this lipstick. So we have one, and I wanted to create a box which is of exact same dimensions of this lipstick in the Y and in the X and Z. So I used a math size node for that. So first thing, I created a box. This is a pretty normal box. It's a polygon mesh and the axis divisions are 6. I want this box to be this box to be of exact same size of that. I want this box to be of that exact same dimension of this lipstick. So I've used a math size node. We want this box to be connected to the first input, which is geometry to move and resize, and we want this lipstick to be on the second input, which is the reference or the geometry whose bounding box is to be matched. So this way we got a good lipstick box here, packaging box. I've used a poly bevel node because this was too sharp. The edges were too sharp in this, and that's why I've used a poly bevel node to make the edges a bit, beveled. And what I've done in the poly bevel node is I come to exclusion. This is usually turned. This is like this. The tab is closed. Open the tab and turn this on. And if I don't turn this on, everything will get beveled. Every edge will get beveled. But we do not want that. We want only the edges in the corner. So play with the normal angle here if you are not getting the same results as me. So play with the angle here if you are not getting the same results as me, and we only want the bevels to be applied to. We only want the bevels to be applied to this area, or in these areas, to the edges. Okay. After that, this is a section where I applied UVs to this box. The first thing I did was this is our box, and now we want to apply UV to our box. So because I will be using some textures on this, so for that I've used a UV flatten node, and in the UV flatten node you can see there's a flattening constraint section and there's a seam box here. What I've done was I selected all the edges where I wanted to create seams, and I selected them like this. Press shift and select the edge. Okay, so I selected all the edges where I want the seams to be, and this is what we are getting. after applying the seams, this is what we are getting. This is what we are getting. So we have a spread out UV for the box here, but I don't want the UVs to be like this, so I've used a UV layout node. And what this UV layout node does is it creates a island for it pack all these islands on the UVs. This is basic UV work. If you're coming from a different 3D software, then you must know this. And the work is not so different in Houdini as well. So after the UV layout node, what I've done is I've used a UV transform node, and I'll show you why. These are the original UVs that we are getting, and in the UV transform node, I have rotated all these UVs to 90 degrees in the Z direction, minus 90 degree in the Z direction. Okay, so this is our final UV, and because I wanted to create textures with the help of these UVs, what I've done is I've used an labs export UV wireframe node, and I exported this UV. I've exported these UVs out as a PNG format, and then I created textures in Photoshop, and then I brought those textures in Houdini. So that is that. So if you ever use the UV functions in Houdini, and if you want to export the UV layout for texturing purposes, then you can use this export UV labs export UV wireframe node. Okay, after fixing the UVs, what I've done is I've used a transform node, and I placed it just behind I wanted this box just behind this lipstick, so that's where I have adjusted its position. And I've also increased the size because the box is going to be a little bigger than the exact dimensions of this lipstick. So that's that. I've used material for this packaging box, and I applied the material here, hold the box. I wanted another box here, somewhere here, so what I've done is I've used a transform node, and I just transformed it here, just change the position to here, and then I merged all of them. The lipsticks, our original box, and then I transformed that box here, and then I merged all of them, so we have two boxes and two lipsticks, and I call this out products. Okay, and this is for viewport visualization only. I'll just turn this on. I've applied black color to this and yellow color to the boxes. After this, what I wanted was I wanted a grid here, base, ground, and I decided that maybe the base ground can be cloth, and I can play with some Vellum simulation, and let's see what will happen. So this is the next part. Let's dive into our grid network. This is our grid. This is 15 by 30. This is our lipstick and our box geometries. What I done then after creating the grid is I use a remesh node, and I set the target size to 0.06, which is pretty low. So we are getting a lot of triangles here, a lot of geometry, which will work really good in our Vellum simulation. And exactly after that, I have used a Vellum cloth node. If you're not familiar with Vellum cloth simulation and Vellum functions and constraints, then you can see my Vellum tutorials for that. I have a pretty good beginner tutorial for the Vellum cloth nodes, specifically Vellum cloth constraint specifically, so maybe you can watch that. So in the Vellum cloth node, we are connecting this our remesh ground geometry to a vellum cloth. And now what this vellum cloth will do is it will give properties of cloth to this ground. Okay, so what are the two properties of cloth that this vellum cloth constant will give? It will give the stretchiness of the cloth to this. So we will be able to control how stretchy the cloth is going to be, and this is going to give the bendiness or the foldability of a cloth. So how foldable or how bendable the cloth is going to be. So these are the two properties that we can control with the help of vellum cloth. So I have connected our so that's why I connected our ground to vellum cloth constant. In the vellum cloth constant, you can see that the stretch stiffness is set to 1e plus 8, which is a bit high, which is nice. We don't want it to be too stretchy. And when you come to the bend section, the bend stiffness is pretty low. It is 0.0001, which is quite low, and we want this cloth to be bendy. What I've done now is I'll just turn this other objects off. We do not want to see any objects out of this network, so hide other objects. Now with the help of an object merge node, I call two of these lipsticks from here. Okay, so I just copied this. So I just copied this and the grid. I've used an object merge node and I pasted it here. So these are the two lipsticks that we are getting. What I've done is I've used a transform node, and in the transform node, in the Y rotation, I've used a function called frame @frame. So what this is going to do is our lipsticks are going to rotate in the Y direction, in the Y axis. And how much they are going to rotate? They are going to rotate exactly the amount of the current frame number. So if the frame is 48, so both of these lipsticks are going to rotate in the Y axis 48 degrees. If it is 72, then they are going to rotate 72 degrees, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is pretty basic function, and I have used these geometry as a collider geometry for our cloth. So this cloth when it run in the Vellum simulation is going to get collide by these two lipstick geometry. Okay, so after the Vellum cloth, I have created a Vellum solver, and this Vellum solver I have just turned off the gravity and I have increased the substeps to 2. Inside there's no force here. So this is a pretty basic simulation. The only thing that is happening here is there's a cloth here, and that cloth is being collided with these two colliding objects. So when we play this, you can see these two lipstick will rotate and they will collide with this cloth, and in effect this cloth is going to create some swirls and some patterns here. Okay, so as you can see, this is what we are getting after the Vellum solver, and this is looking very nice to me. This is pretty nice. We don't really need some very fancy stuff here. This is pretty basic, and this is looking nice. After the Vellum solver, I've used a Vellum post process node to just make this even more presentable. In the Vellum post process, I have used a spatial blur. I have increased it to 0.6, so that it looks good. It doesn't look very forced. And in the subdivision, I have set it to loop, and I have increase the subdivision depth to 2. So our cloth is pretty detailed here. After that, I have used a out node, and this is our final cloth here. And for the viewport purposes, I have given it some color. Okay. So this is our final geometry. We got our, the first thing is we got our lipstick here as an alembic. We set it up. After that, we got that lipstick. We created another copy of it. We got that lipstick. We created another copy of that. And after that, we created 2 boxes. And then we used those 2 lipstick to create our cloth simulation. As okay, so that's nice. This is looking nice. After that, to create the 2 cameras here, what you can do is go to a place where you like the angle, and then when you want to create the camera, just click Control and click on the camera. So this is the 3rd camera that I'm getting, and then you can play with the positioning of this camera. Okay, and then you can finalize the camera here. I don't need this, so I'll just delete it. With a similar process, I decided 2 angles that I thought that were looking good. So these are the 2 angles. Okay, so now let me show you the materials that I've created for all of these. Go to the material section here. I have created 4 materials here. There's a lipstick material for both of these. There's a ground material for the cloth here. The holder is for both of these black holders, and there's box. So material for both of these boxes. Let's dive into the lipstick material that is for both of these. This is a pretty basic material. I've used a standard material here, and I have increased the roughness to 0.547. And for the base color, I have used a particle attribute lookup, and the attribute is CD, because we had given different red colors for both of these objects, both of these lipstick objects. So that's why I'm using this attribute lookup. So both of them get their specific reds in the final render. After that, for the cloth, I have used the RS material here, and I have given the preset of paper because there's no preset for cloth, and I think paper was looking good. So the diffuse color, I have given this red color, this maroon color, and I have increased the weight for the backlight translucency to 0.25 here. Reflection is completely turned off, the weight is 0 here. And in the sheen, what I've done is I turned the weight on, and I have increased the roughness. I have decreased the roughness to 0.083, kept the roughness here, and then I have given a very light version of this maroon here. Okay, this lighter version of maroon here. If you decrease the saturation of this maroon and just give it some more light, then it will become this, because I wanted to give it some velvet type of shade. So that's why I've done this. For the holder, the material is pretty simple. I've used a RS material node, and I've used the preset gold, and in the reflection I have increased the roughness to 0.602, and I don't think I have changed the color. Maybe I changed the tint a bit here in the metal edge tint. You can play with these values, or you can just copy these values as well. So for the packaging box, what I wanted a logo here. So that's why I created some texture here, and I created that texture in Photoshop, and then I used that as a blend color. It was a black and white texture, and I used that as a blend color to mix two materials here in the Redshift material section. So what I've done is I've used a material blender because I wanted to mix two colors here. The first one is a black color standard. I don't think I have changed anything here. It's just standard material. The only thing that I've done is I've used a black color here. Okay, the roughness is 0.2. The other thing I'm using is the material that I'm using is RS material. I'm using the same gold material that I've used for the holders here, so I just copy pasted it, so there's no changes here. And now what I want is I wanted to mix this black and this golden with the help of our texture that I created in Photoshop. So for the first material, connect the gold material here, and for the second material we are going to connect the black RS standard material that I created, and then we are going to use our texture that I created for the blend color for mixing both of them. That is that. These are our four materials, and now these are our four materials. Now let's play with the lighting. Okay, so the first light that I have here is this line. So it is coming from the left, and it is directly hitting the objects here. When I turn this on, this is how it is affecting. So this is acting like a very small window, and sunlight is coming in from that, and I kept the intensity at 10 and temperature is 4592 to mimic the sunlight, and the size is very low, so this is a very thin light. Okay, this is acting as a very small break which is letting the sunlight come through. Okay, and the spread is very low as well, so as to not affect a lot of area here. So that is done. The next light is a bigger light here. This is a circular light, as you can see. Let me turn this on and you can see the effect. This is a circular light, but this is a very soft light, so the intensity is 100, and same, keeping the temperature at 5200 as to mimic the sunlight. And this dusk, I have increased the size to too big. I have increased the size to too much. It's a very big light, as you can see, and I've kept the spread to 0.1, and I've also turned on the normal intensity so that this only affect a very small area. This is acting like a reflective light. After that, I'll just turn this RS light 4, and this is also a very circular light, but this is coming from the back, so it is creating a rim light. It is affecting them from the back. So let's turn this on and see. Yeah, as you can see, when I turn this on, these box get affected from the back. So this light is also very small light. It is not having too much effect, but the intensity is 100 here. Exposure I have decreases too much because I did not want, because obviously I did not wanted this light to affect too much, and I kept the temperature to 5200. Size is this, and spread is 0.111, and normal intensity is turned on, in this as well. After this, I just copied the light number 2, this big light here, but when I turn this on, we get this suddenly the scene gets pumped up. This is our render without this light, and when I turn it out, it gives a sudden pop. So the intensity is 100 here, and I wanted to fill this area because this wasn't looking very good. So I just turn this on, this big light, and intensity is 100, the temperature is same. All I did was in the RS2 here, the exposure was -2, and I just brought the exposure to 0 here, and that is why it is giving this effect. And as you can see, this is only affecting to the boxes and the lipstick here. It is not affecting to our cloth here. So if I turn this off again, you can see it is only affecting to these parts. It is only affecting to these geometries. Let me turn this on. You can see the cloth is not getting affected. The ground is not getting affected by this. So that is that. And finally, when I turn this small light on, this is going to be acting as a overall fill light here. So this small light is acting like a filler light for the whole scene here. The intensity is kept at 11.5 and the exposure is 1.1, and I kept this one to white because I wanted everything to retain their own color, and size I kept it to very low, 0.5 to 0.5 to 0.5, and I turned on the normal intensity. The spread is 1. So I'll just turn this off and we'll go to a final render. Okay guys, so this was the tutorial and we created lipstick product visualization in this one. So I hope you learned something from it. If you want the project files, then you can get it from my Patreon. You'll get the HIP file, the geometries and all the textures I have used here. A lot more tutorials are coming, so I hope to see you around. See you in the next one. Thank you.